Oscillator Sync here. Believe it or not, I am finally at the stage of life where I am a little more controlled when it comes to impulse buying gear. A lot of this has come from examining what it is that I really enjoy in an instrument and being able to rationalise away the potential short-term dopamine hit that I'll get from the retail therapy in favour of seeking a more in-depth and long-lasting relationship with an instrument that I'll really get on with. That being said, occasionally, still, I'll come across an instrument which speaks to me on an ancient, visceral level, and I know that my fate is sealed. Something where it's ticking all the boxes on a sonic, playability, vibe, and yes, aesthetic level. Something that feels like the designer opened up my skull and inspected my brain to craft exactly the type of instrument that makes me feel warm and fuzzy. The Polygene 2 from Gene Synths is such an instrument, and it got its hooks in good and proper. A synth so beautiful and unusual, one that looks forwards and backwards in time and that eschews convention. I knew I had to have it, so I sold a bunch of synths that I was no longer reaching for when I wanted to make music and put in the order. Now that I've had some time to play with it, I'm ready to discuss what makes it so magical for me. Like in my double knot video, this isn't a review and it's not really a tutorial. It's me taking the opportunity to show you an instrument I really like and hopefully convey why. So let's take a look. I feel like talking about a synth such as this in purely paper specs terms is missing the point a little bit, but it is worth describing the architecture, I think, at a high level so we understand what we're working with here as we start to explore the sounds a bit more. So the Polygene 2 is a 24-voice polyphonic synthesizer. It's analog, there's no digital components in it at all, but it's worth describing what we mean by voice in this case, just so that that's clear. So a voice in this case is an oscillator plus a VCA to modulate its amplitude, and an envelope for that VCA. So each note that we play is completely independently articulated. There is a filter, but the filter is at the end of the chain, essentially. It's on the output of the sum of all of the voices they're playing. So in that sense, it's kind of got that paraphonic vibe, and it actually does the paraphonic thing where the last note played is going to articulate the filter. So the filter is paraphonic, but the actual voices are not. They are completely independently articulated. The 24 voices on the Polygene 2 are laid out on this keyboard analogy that you can see here. So we've got C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, and so on, and then starting again on the second octave here. Now you'll notice when I'm playing those notes that isn't a C, a C sharp, and so on. There are clearly other notes there, and that's because the keyboard is completely freely tunable within that 12-note scale. So if we, for example, wanted the B analogy to be tuned differently, we can change the B to be something else, and now it's going to follow it on the other octave as well. The way that the sound is generated on the two octaves of the keyboard is different as well. So on the top octave you have a pure transistor class A oscillator. It's very raw, it's a little unstable at times, but I think it's quite beautiful. On the bottom half of the keyboard you have what's called the harmonic oscillator, and it's sort of like a sub-oscillator, but you have a bit of more control over what the sub actually means, and we can change the shape by using these 8 knobs on this row here. You can see at the moment all of these ones are pointing down and all of these are pointing up. You can think about these when they're at their extremes as the shape of a square wave. So here we've got a square wave which is 1 down, 1 up. Now if I, for example, here make these ones go up, these ones down, and these ones up, you've now got twice the frequency. So it's gone up an octave, right? And if I go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, I've gone up another octave. So now I've got just a straight sub-octave. But we can also change the harmonic content and get sort of different sort of phasey, pulse widthy things happening by changing which part is up and down. So here we have a very short up with a down, so it's still a low octave, but you've got a bit of a thinner pulse width. Bring these ones down here. Now if you put one of these knobs not at an extreme, what happens is through the decay of the note, they sort of make their way to where they are. So if I turn these up, you can hear that we start with a lower octave, but as the shape of the wave goes from down to up, at this point we actually get a higher octave implied. Do the same thing over here to make it more obvious as well. Oh, some interesting phase stuff happening there. That's really cool. That's really neat. Beautiful. Yeah, so there's like a weird phase thing happening there where it's taking the attack off. That's cool. Yeah, still finding new things to enjoy. So you get a timbral shift through the decay of the note that introduces different sort of octaves and harmonics to the sound, which is a really nice way of working, I think. So a few more little architectural things before we just start exploring a bit more. We do have an envelope control for this keyboard here. So over here we have an attack. And what this is going to do is more affect the filter than anything else, because the attack is always going to be sort of straight on with this keyboard here. So at the moment the attack is up, and that's going to ping the filter up when we play a note. It's actually bipolar, so my favourite thing to do is to go the other way, so we start higher. So now the filter is going to go down and then decay back up. So you kind of get this blooming to the note, which is really nice. Hear a bit more if we turn the resonance up. Don't worry about that note being burbly, that's on purpose, incidentally. It's how I've tuned it. It's sort of almost like a sort of steel drum kind of thing. And then in the middle, the filter doesn't move at all, really. And then we have a separate release for this side of the keyboard and for this side of the keyboard, so we can have this side more blocky, this one will be longer. We have a decay over here, which is kind of doing what you expect it to do, and that works on both sides as well. You might think, okay, well, that's a bit of a bummer that you can only have hard notes. Well, that's where this keyboard, yes, there's another keyboard here, comes in. So there's a separate keyboard, which instead of being a hard-on trigger, allows you to articulate the notes differently with how much pressure you apply. bit more like the low rate. Which I think is rather nice. One thing that you can also do with this keyboard is if you apply a little bit of pressure, you can get a very natural vibrato. Which is really nice. In terms of other modulation we have here, we do have an LFO, which can affect the filter. And also one which can affect the pitch. And a noise here as well, which gets injected into the oscillators, which is going to move the pitch around and also just give it a bit of crunchiness. You can combine them together, and I think if you've got the noise turned up high, it also affects the LFO a bit, which is cool. But enough sort of technical details. Let's start to explore the device a little bit and address the elephant in the room, which is all of this exposed circuitry. I'm going to add some reverb from the GFI Specular Reverb so we can bliss out a little bit. And I'm going to add some delay from the Hate Echo from circuitbenders.co.uk. You should be able to hear on the repeats. I love a bit of fluffy noise, which I really, really like. It's quite a lo-fi delay, but yeah, lovely sort of fluff that adds to everything. Okay, let's start with this top row here with these transistors. These transistors are what make the oscillators essentially, and we can bridge them to make them make noise in with what we're playing. The way that I prefer to do this for the most part is when I'm playing a note on the lower keyboard, we can touch transistors, and how we bridge them. Sometimes you get pitch bends, sometimes you get octave harmonic sweeps. We can also use these panels here which inject it directly into the filter as well. Depending on how the filter set, you can get a bit of hum when you're doing that with this panel here, because you're essentially, when you're not touching anything else, it's ungrounded, it's just you. One of the nice things here as well is when you bridge multiple oscillators together, they can start to interact. In interesting ways. And if you're bridging the note that you're playing on the keyboard, you can use it to trill them because, again, they'll interact. Beneath the transistors, we also have access to the partials of the harmonic oscillator. which are really nice to sweep across. It's quite an 8-bit sound to it. And of course we can be playing other things while we're doing this kind of bridging. It can get quite chaotic. One of my other favourite places to bridge stuff is this area here, which kind of has all of the oscillators coming together, and there's some stuff to do with the resonance in the filter up here, and it creates these really kind of quite chaotic stuff, especially with the resonance turned high, because one thing with the resonance on the filter here is that it will overdrive quite nicely with the resonance turned up, especially with the cutoff turned lower as well. Kind of get kind of a scream to it. Let's get the LFO moving it. The LFO, incidentally, we've got some transistors here to do with the LFO. You can bring bridge stuff into them from the oscillators, and it will change the rate. Which is also quite interesting. But yeah, this area here, if we start bridging stuff here, especially with the resonance turned up, it really drives hard into the filter. You've kind of got the oscillators around here. Some bits where it gets really angry if I can find it. But because the oscillators are tuned harmonically here, although we're getting some quite angry sounds, they are at least harmonically related. Of course we can play other stuff at the same time. Also, bridging this area will affect what's going on into the filter in general, so it just becomes more crunchy. If we also bridge to this transistor, I think it is, we get some quite aggressive fluff on top. So quite angry and chaotic, but still in a way that maintains the basic harmonic ideas. Some other stuff you can do with the harmonic oscillator as well, in terms of sort of shaping the tone. If we go to something really spiky here, so if we literally just have one up and then, or rather one down and everything else up, we'll get like a really tight sort of low pulse width, if you like. But if I move this so that it itself is also not going to be there the whole time, it's only going to swoop down at the end, we we can sort of affect the release portion. And if we go the other way, we turn all of these down. Then can turn this one. So that it's going to only make it to the end. At the end we can get an attack on the lower keyboard without having to use this side as well. Do it to other things as well. Into the sound, more modulation of other stuff. Destabilize everything. Yeah. And when you get into a zone, it feels really good. So that's the Polygene 2. There is clearly a lot more for me to explore, and you can certainly expect to see more of it on the channel and definitely hear more of it in my music. But I hope I've been able to give you an overview of what it can do and why it is special. Gene Synths have actually just announced their new synth, the Polygene, which also looks and sounds amazing. I'm probably going to get one, but I'm in no great rush because I have a lot of music to make with the Polygene first. If you enjoy the video, a like and a subscribe is most appreciated if you feel it's warranted. But other than that, as always, thanks so much for watching. Until next time, take care.